All right, Sisters fans, now I need to tell you up front, this might be a bit of a lengthy video here. Kind of like the video I did breaking down how I would have rewritten the series finale for the haves and the have-nots. I have some detailed notes in front of me. I'm going to attempt to make this video as structured, clear, and concise as possible, as opposed to making it sound like I'm rambling. I'm well aware of how crazy the fan base for Zatima is to the series, so I want to make sure I'm not wasting your time by doing this video, and I'm not wasting my time by doing this video. But the other day last week, what was it, Tuesday, when I went to Danville to get car maintenance and everything done, it took about 3 hours because I went in there for 2 things and it turned into 15 things. But yeah, I was sitting there with my nephew, I had my notebook, I was jotting down notes, and I came up to about, I want to say 3.5 pages of what this video is going to be. Now, I broke it down into different sections, such as the beginning, pretty much talking about a brief importance of what Zatima means to the sister franchise. Then, of course, talking about the history of how they met, kind of some details and how Zack had a backslide and how that impacted his dynamic with Fatima, leading in to some of the things that might deter them from being in a successful relationship together, before wrapping it all up into asking the question whether or not they are in game. So without further ado, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up to show you liked it. Also, go ahead and hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post content on the channel. Hit subscribe to help me close in on 200,000 subscribers, and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Alright, so I think it's easy and agreeable to come to the point of saying Zatima is the main reason a majority of the fan base watches Sisters today. I'm not saying that without Zatima people wouldn't watch the show at all, but I think Zatima literally became to Sisters what Steve Urkel became to Family Matters. Like, I'm not saying that people say Zatima more than Sisters. I feel like, you know, the legacy of Family Matters has, you know, obviously been extended due to Steve Urkel, but I remember even as a kid, you know, I would refer to it as, hey, Steve Urkel comes on at 7 o'clock, as opposed to saying Family Matters. Like, when it comes to Sisters, obviously people still say Sisters. So I will say this much. I don't know if you've seen it, but I know I've seen plenty of, you know, interviews. I think Entertainment had a cast reunion interview, and then I believe there was Uncensored, an episode with Jaleel White, and so on and so forth. There have been many discussions about how the Family Matters series wasn't as popular as intended during its first season or so, and it was potentially in danger of being canceled if not for the explosion of popularity that occurred once Steve Urkel made his one-and-done appearance, which eventually led to him becoming a major character, and by extension taking up a majority of the series from other cast members. Now, Zatima hasn't done that just yet. I feel like, if nothing else, a lot of fans agree that there isn't enough Zatima in the series, but I know some fans, you know, have stated Zatima seems a bit overrated, but to be honest, I will talk about that later in the video. But I'll say that when compared to the other characters in terms of like the couples and quote-unquote relationships and whatnot, I think Zatima is just so good compared to the others, like the Sabrina, Calvin, Karen, Aaron, Andy, Gary. I don't really want to say Danny and Preston. I mean, with Danny and Preston, it's like, you know, Danny needs to open up, but overall, Zack and Zatima is that couple. They're like the Zack and Kelly of Saved by the Bell. So I think Zatima is really important to the series because it helps to maintain viewership. I feel like there are as many people who love Zatima as there are, you know, many people who are just sick and tired of the Gary and Andy back and forth toxic relationships. So I think Zatima is very important to the sister series, and that cannot be overstated. And at the same time, what makes it even more surprising is the fact that this was between the sassy, witty secretary slash assistant of Andy, Fatima, who we saw a few times in season 1, and the deadbeat, on again, off again lover of Karen, who is Zach in season 1. But see, I don't know what it was about season 2, but dang it, Tyler Perry, he did it right. I mean, the one thing I will say I love about Zatima, especially during season 2, is that it really indicated that, yeah, Tyler Perry, when he's in his bag, the man can really, really write. Like, yeah, I guess maybe a good portion of Sisters season 2 wasn't all that great, especially in regards to character regression and whatnot. But when it came to Zatima, Tyler Perry knew what he was doing. So that's what makes this couple or shipping just so surprising, that you took a character who was just down on his luck. He was a no good boyfriend, Zach, and you paired him with the witty Fatima. I keep saying Zatima, Fatima. And they just made such a pairing that they really stood out to the rest of the cast. And I remember watching season 2 and talking about in my reviews, like, you know what? I'm really not feeling a lot of the main characters. You know, people were sick of Andy at the beginning of season 2. The Sabrina Calvin thing had gotten stale. People were like, Zach, leave Karen alone so you can move on with Fatima. And Danny was, I mean, it's funny because Danny was literally the most popular sister amongst fans at the beginning of season 2. Like, a lot of people were saying, you know, give us Zach, Fatima, Preston, Danny. Like, those are the characters we need. Like, we love them. But the other sisters definitely didn't seem to be all that well received by the cast, and for a lot of reasons I can kind of see why. As season 2 progressed, I found myself disliking Andy more and more with each episode. Sabrina was just too wishy-washy. It was hard to even, you know, root for her to win in love because, you know, she was so judgmental, not to mention allowing other people to decide her, you know, thoughts and feelings towards another person. And, you know, Zatima just was a breath of fresh air. And like I said in a lot of my season 3 videos, it sucks that, you know, even though it's great that Fatima is getting recognition as a quote-unquote sister now, you know, from appearing with the cast at the BET Awards to being in the opening titles, it's like the closer her proximity is to the sisters group, the less Fatima there is to like, because she's becoming too much like the other women, and as a result she's kind of losing that thing that made her separate. But at the end of the day, the show is still called Sisters, so there has to be some kind of focus on the 4 main women, even though that's not really what the fans really want. So again, this opening segment was to talk about the importance of Zatima, or should I just say both characters? But overall, let's just give a brief history about how these two met. And that's the crazy part. Fatima literally hit Zach on his bike and almost ran him over in the parking lot. Even though I still stand by the fact that Zach was literally just, you know, not looking where he was going, whereas Fatima was well within the speed limit of a parking lot while watching where she was going. She was on her car phone, but she was literally watching where she was going. Zach just pulled out in front of her, and then that's how he got hit and got his bike wrecked. Lo and behold, I believe this was after, you know, Karen literally, this was at, I believe it was Sabrina's apartment, where she pretty much said she was picking Aaron over Zach, and that was about it. So he was going to the chain breaker meeting in order to help better himself, and then it turns out Fatima was also a part of that group, and that's how, you know, they really officially got introduced. And, you know, since his bike was messed up, you know, he put his ego aside and accepted a ride from her. And their first conversation wasn't all that great because, I mean, she was very apologetic for what happened with the bike and everything, but, you know, he started going in on her about, oh wow, this is a nice car and all, like, who hooked you up? So basically he was assuming that Fatima had a man that, you know, put her in the situation she's in, when that couldn't be further from the truth. But once Fatima put her foot down, he was like, you know what, I'm sorry, you know, I'm going through something right now with an ex, and I just took my anger out on you. So pretty much Fatima up front was able to call Zach out for his crap, and Zach was pretty much open with her as a result. And then of course we know what happened next. Fatima dropped him off at the hotel because I think it was Pam that called Zach because of the Karen said she was going to this hotel and she didn't say who she was going with, and as a result Pam pretty much, you know, sent, like, I think flowers or champagne to the room, assuming it was Zach. And because she told Zach about it, that's how he knew. Went to the hotel, broke into the room, got into the fight, then it got arrested, and not wanting to ruin his chance with chain breakers as well as his job at the airport, he was able to get out thanks to Fatima, and she actually hooked him up with a place to stay at, with her for a little bit until he got on his feet. And Zach was really reluctant at first, just because the last woman that put him up, to help him out, things didn't go that well. And it's great to see, or it was great to see that character build up in Zach, where he wasn't quick to rush into anything, because number one, he was still feeling Karen, the woman that he took a knife for. And now we have a woman who's treating him the same way Karen did when he got into, criminal trouble back in the day, quote unquote, 3 years ago. So, dang, I don't want to jump too far ahead in this video, but like I said, I'm giving a brief history. So overall, they went to dinner. I guess you could just say simply, Fatima saw potential in Zach. He was just, I guess the best way to put it.
So he's a bit of a fixer-upper.
And yeah, it was difficult to tell what exactly they were, because I felt like, if nothing else, Zach was definitely becoming more emotionally attached than Fatima at the start, because Friends with Benefits definitely felt a bit awkward to title these two, because it seemed like anytime Zach was trying to open up, talk about his feelings and or his ex, Fatima would shut it down quick. And it just seemed like, she was giving, and I'm not saying that Zach was just a taker, but it seemed like she was giving Zach a lot of what he needed, which was affirmations, positive reinforcement, treating him in such a way that, wow, my ex never talked to me like this. And on the flip side, it's like, I guess Fatima just wanted sex. I don't know. But either way, these two never really defined what they were. And this is where we get to the controversial side of the conversation. Zach's backslide, where he was accused of taking the $5,000 via Karen's credit card and got arrested. And he pleaded with her that that wasn't the case. And then they ended up having sex in her office at work. And then when Fatima found out in the god-awful season 2 finale, from that point on, she began to doubt Zach and his ability to be fully trusted, as well as to open herself up to vulnerably in love and in a relationship. So it seemed like any potential progress they were making was shot all to hell based on the encounter in the grocery store. So the part that I honestly didn't really like about this is the fact that I know Zach and Fatima were not officially a thing, but based on the couple of interactions Fatima had with the sisters group, it seemed like she was placing it would have been different if we would have seen Fatima interact with the sisters a little bit more in season 2. Like, let's say they hung out as a group maybe 2 to 3 times, and Fatima had different interactions with all the sisters, not just Andy, on one-on-one basis. Or we can take it a step further. Let's say her and Karen hit it off extremely well. That way, when it was revealed that her and Zach, did the nasty, it would have hit harder, because it felt like Fatima's anger towards Zach, because of her reluctance to trust him based off the other women, it's like Zach was saying, we don't owe these girls nothing or anything like that, or these cackling hyenas. And I couldn't agree more. I'm not saying Zach was right for, having sex with Karen, but I'm just saying that I don't see why it was written that Fatima seemed to hold her potential, quote unquote, relationship with these women to the same level as her unrelationship with Zach. So that's the one thing I couldn't tell, in terms of how that would play out for the fans to actually believe it. So what we do know, based off what Fatima told the girls during the girls' night towards the early stages of season 2, is the fact that she doesn't really date with a purpose to marry or a long-term relationship. She just dates to date. And I remember when that first happened, fans like, Zach, no, get out of there, get out of there. Because of the fact that it's like, we could tell Zach was falling for Fatima. And on the flip side, based on what she told the women, we know Fatima isn't looking for anything long-term. So in a sense, You know, it's like Fatima said, men do it all the time. They just date to date, so why is it wrong for a woman to do it? So you could look at Zach as a semi-deadbeat womanizer. So it's like if he gets hurt by Fatima, it's like, well, look at all the women he's just slept with and cheated on Karen with. So it's like, you know, karma's coming around. But you didn't want to see it happen because Zach was trying to better himself. So then we get to the point where she tells Andy, like, the main reason I'm not really committed to anyone or interested in a long-term relationship is because the last time I gave myself to a man, it turned out, you know, he just broke up with his ex or fiance, and then we got together, but then he broke up with me on, what was it, like a Friday, and then got back together and married his fiance on the Saturday. I forgot what day of the week it was, but basically the day after he broke up with me, he married the woman that, you know, he initially said he was over. So that's why it really felt like she was not willing to give herself to Zach, because of the fact that, look, you and Karen are still a thing. You just hooked up with her, and we recently learned they were together 3 years. So yeah, he's not just going to give up. He's just not going to get over those feelings, because like I said, I got love for Karen, but I'm not in love with her. So it really began this kind of mini arc towards the beginning of season 3. And like I said, when season 3 came out, I'm hoping that Fatima doesn't hook up too quickly. Because if you do it too quickly, there really isn't anything to watch for. You know, like, we want to see it progress. Like, see Fatima grow to trust Zach and let Zach earn that trust back. You know, as time went on and Fatima was getting colder and colder, that's when he's like, hey, I got some money. You know, when he got his $25,000 from Chain Breakers that Fatima delivered, you know, hell, I think if I remember correctly, there was a point where Fatima gave him a key to live with her, and of course that happens right after the sex with Karen. So from there, you know, he offered to give her some money just to kind of pay her, like, hey, thanks for putting me up, but I don't want another woman saying I took anything from her. And Fatima wouldn't accept it. And, you know, as the season went on, she was adamant in saying, I don't want you, Zach, yada, yada, yada. Zach would say, no, you don't mean it. But then she would kick him out anyway. And we saw some scenes between her and Andy, and then, you know, like her and the other girls, especially at the surprise wedding. And she made it clear, I'm not interested in Zach. Me and him were over and this and that. And she eventually confides in Andy that it's hard to shake this guy, because even though she couldn't fully admit it, I think as fans we could tell Zach was the first man since the one that broke her heart that made her feel, well, you know, let Lil Wayne say it. Yeah, I mean, how to love someone without fearing for heartbreak. But, you know, I feel like fear is a good thing, because if you're hesitant to jump into something, that means that you're self-aware and you're cautious about your well-being. But, you know, sometimes you got to take that leap of faith and trust that somebody won't hurt you because somebody else in the past did. But I have to admit, you know, from Fatima's perspective, it's like the way you just quickly hooked up with your ex, who's to say something like that wouldn't happen again if we got together. But then in Zach's defense, it's like, well, one, we never defined what we were. Anytime I tried to talk about my ex to kind of move on from that or let you know what my past was like, you would shut it down. So it felt like Fatima really only wanted Zach for his body, but at the same time was giving him substance via affirmations and whatnot. So that pretty much leads to the next section of the video. You know, speaking of the Karen thing, let's also talk about the fact that a guy from Fatima's past is trying to sabotage him, and we're really going to focus this section on like past mistakes and things of that nature. So let's talk Hayden. Apparently, you know, before Zach, obviously, when Fatima was going through her phase of, you know, just dating to date, her and Hayden had like a one night together, and, you know, Hayden just hasn't let it go. The fact that, you know, hey, you know what, you're mine, you're not going to be with anybody else. But Fatima ain't feeling him at all. This dude actually went through the process of setting Zach up by having drugs planted in the Chain Breaker truck. And then from there, you know, that was in conjunction with Karen trying to get him arrested for stealing his credit card when it wasn't him. And the worst part about it wasn't the fact that Karen went to the police department to get him arrested, but due to the fact that she was pissed off. If I'm not mistaken, which I could be because I honestly don't remember the series of events all that well, I think I feel like Zach got arrested. Was it before or after Karen went to the airport, Danny brought her on the plane, and she basically laid him out? Yeah, I think it was before. Yeah. She did all that before she filed the police report to get him arrested, because she confronted Zach at work. Then Sabrina was like, hey, give me about a day or so. I got a friend who could look into this to see if Zach really did it. And then she basically went on to just file the police report the next morning, and Zach got arrested. So basically, Zach was being attacked from two sides, and Fatima got him out because she did believe that he had nothing to do with it. So from there, Hayden has just not stopped trying to get back at Zach, you know, from sabotaging chain breakers for him. But Fatima made it so he would fix everything, but then he dropped out of chain breakers because of his stock find, or stock win. So we even have in the upcoming part of season 3, part 2, where Hayden is trying to convince, you know, Fatima that Zach did something illegal and his stock win wasn't all legit, and, you know, your boy might be going to jail. So they both have situations that haunt them because, I mean, to be completely honest, Zach hasn't really thrown the Hayden thing in Fatima's face in the same way she's thrown the Karen thing in his face, because I don't think it's just a matter of Zach having sex with Karen that makes Fatima upset. She's being, you know, emotional because of the whole, well, because you and Karen were a thing in the past, that's negatively impacting my relationship with Andy, because she won't talk to me about it, because every time I talk about Karen or Zach with you, it's like I'm betraying my best friend, yada yada yada, even though she has no problem breaking up a marriage. And then from there, you know, while trying to be part of the sisters group, Karen's a part of that group, so there's always going to be that, well, you're dating my ex kind of thing there. But Zach really hasn't. I mean, there have been times where he's like tried to pay back Fatima, but only in the sense of, I don't want another woman, in reference to Karen saying I've only taken from her, or, oh, what about the chain breakers thing, you know, am I going to be part of that because you don't want to be involved with me anymore? So Fatima pretty much squashed any negative vibes Zach might have about her. Like, look, just because me and you didn't work out, or I said I'm done with you, I'm not going to sabotage your life like that in regards to making you, you know, no longer a part of chain breakers or things, you know, basically like that. So I feel like Fatima is the one who's definitely fired the most arrows at Zach because of his past. But at the same time, you know, Zach is being patient with her, which definitely shows a lot of growth in his character. So overall, their past mistakes, Karen and Zach, could definitely lead to potential mishaps, if you will, you know. And don't worry, I know about the whole Karen possibly pregnant thing. That's going to be coming up towards the end in part 6. But we go to part 5, and this is really about what could potentially make it so these two aren't really ready for a relationship, because Fatima's made it clear, I'm crazy, and like once I get to a certain place, they ain't no going back. So it's pretty much like that movie A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, where Lynn Whitfield's character was telling Martin's character all along, yeah, I've killed I killed one of my past husbands, I did this, I did that, yet Martin still pursued her, and then look what happened. But with Fatima, you know, we know she carries, we know she crazy, but she's the chick you want to have in your corner, but at the same time, she's also the chick you don't want to piss off. So I feel like with that, Zach hasn't really, you know, I don't think he's fully taken that into account. But at the same time, I think that he's patient enough with her that that's not necessarily a front she puts on, but she makes it clear, I'm not just someone you're going to walk all over. But I think that Zach sees enough of the real Fatima that he understands why she is that way, you know? I mean, Karen did pull a knife on him before, but there's that. So with the flip side of that coin, where Fatima's crazy, she calls Zach out for not being ready. I think this happened in the mid-season finale, and I kind of get it. Zatima fans would instantly say, Jeremy, no, Zach is ready. He's put Karen behind him. He wants to move forward. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need to rush into a relationship. I mean, I loved everything he said to Fatima, why she's different than Karen or any other woman, mother, grandmother, auntie, whoever. She spoke to him positively. She doesn't want those affirmations coming out of her lips for another man other than him. So in a way, I kind of believe he's ready for the next step, but are they ready for the next step? Not to mention with all this money, that could lead to a lot of other obstacles. So, there might be potential baggage. I was going to save it for part 6, but now, what if Karen is pregnant, but she assumes it's Zach's baby when it's potentially Aaron's baby? How will Fatima react to that news? Remember in season 1, I think Helen was the name of one of Zach's co-workers, one of the many times him and Zach had, Karen and Zach had quote unquote broken up. He had sex with her, but then when things actually turned around for Karen in terms of the way she felt about Zach, it looked like they were getting back together. Then Helen said, I'm pregnant, and then Karen found out and she was pissed, but then it turned out, I think via Danny, that Helen wasn't pregnant, but the damage had been done. Will the same thing ring true of Fatima? What if it turns out I'm pregnant and then Zach's like, I heard you, and then he has to tell Fatima? This could potentially ruin everything because some people are like, it's no big deal. Zach's making money. He can take care of the baby. He can still be together with Fatima. Personally, and look, I just turned 30 and I realize that as I get older and the longer I've been single, my standards might change. But I'm a person, I've never been a fan of a pre-made family. Like, finding a right person, whether they have 1 kid or 2 kids, different baby daddies or the same baby daddy. I don't want to deal with that. I feel like if I ever meet a woman and we get married, I want my first child to be with her, and vice versa. Like, her first child to be with me. I don't want to deal with the whole baby mama drama and whatnot. And to be honest, I don't think it matters how much money Zach makes, because guess what? Fatima makes her own bag. So even if he's making millions of dollars per year, if he knocked up Karen, they will not work. Fatima won't go for it because guess what? Zach has been doing everything he could so far to tell Fatima and get her to see, I'm over Karen. I only want to focus on you. You know what? There's nobody else I want to be with. But having a baby with Karen during the one time he stepped away from Fatima to have sex with Karen at that office in the salon, that baby is going to be a constant reminder of that. So personally speaking, if Karen is pregnant by Zach's child, I don't think it'll work out. But I feel like the way Tyler Perry writes it, she could probably end up pregnant, but it's actually Aaron's baby. And then from there, when it turns out it isn't his baby, then I don't know what's going to happen between him and Fatima. Like, will she apologize? Will she? I don't know. I don't know. So they both got to have their own baggage. Because think of it this way. For what Karen brings to Zach's life in the Zatima dynamic, Hayden kind of does the same thing in terms of trying to sabotage it. Because, I don't think Karen has tried to sabotage Fatima in the same way that Hayden has tried to sabotage Zach. So then we go over to, the last couple questions here. Are they in game? And my answer to that is maybe. Are they compatible? I definitely feel like, Zach and Fatima have more in common than what Preston and Danny have together. Even though I think they would make a great couple if Danny allows herself to accept the guy treating her right. But I think overall Zach and Fatima, for the most part, are kind of similar. I think that if they weren't going to hook up so quickly, I think Zach should focus on himself first. He's got a lot of good money now. He's got a solid plan on how to make more money. But I think overall, he needs to set himself up first. Secure that house, get his own solo chain breaker business going. Get himself right. Then he can focus on a full-on relationship. Not to mention, with that conversation he's going to have with Karen, we definitely need to finish things up there before he can move forward with anybody else. Obviously Fatima. I mean, Zach's getting the duplex and everything, but I don't know if Fatima would be so quick as to just, leave her current apartment and whatnot, because that's stuff she worked for. And, imagine if her and Zach get together, then like I said before, the news about the baby comes out, then she's not going to want to stay with him, and guess what? Her place is gone now. Where is she going to go? I feel like these two should definitely slow their roll. And like I said before, if they hook up, or not, no. If they get together too quickly, it's not going to work for the sake of the show. Season 4 is being written. There's no way we're going to have Zach and Fatima get together and ride off into the sunset by the end of season 3. Because guess what? Ain't nobody going to watch season 4. So, I think overall, ask yourself the question, aside from being compatible, what is it that they do for each other? Obviously, we know what Fatima does for Zach because he told us in the mid-season finale. But what does Zach do for Fatima? I think the main thing here isn't just the sex, but I feel like the potential in Zach and helping build him up and whatnot, that's allowed. It's ironic because in helping build Zach up, it's like Fatima has been taking the bricks that constructed the walls, or excuse me, yeah, she's deconstructing the walls and barriers she placed up after having her heart broken to help build Zach up. And little by little, that's why, it's been hard for her to get Zach off her mind, even though she said she was done with him, because Zach has been the first man since that old boy that made her feel again, not just date for sex. So I feel like the more they had sex, but then the more they got to know each other, Fatima began to allow herself to feel something other than, getting effed. Because nothing beats that scene. Don't do that making love to me shit. F me. Oh, dang. Okay. So from there, like I said, the obstacles could range from Hayden, money, the potential baby, Zach having options now. You never know, because he's in a different tax bracket. There are going to be a lot of women throwing themselves at his feet that wouldn't give him the time of day before. And then of course the main thing, the influence of the other sisters. Oh god, it's like Zach said in the mid-season, I think, what did the other women say about me? And Fatima says nothing. But then she also said, what makes me different than other women, specifically Karen? So, I don't know. Let's say the women talk shit. Will Fatima still want to be around them? I don't think Fatima needs to be with that group. So then we get to the final department, or, part of this video. Will Tyler Perry deliver? And what I mean by that is, will Tyler Perry deliver a satisfying storyline for Fatima? I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't give a damn if they end up together. I'm interested in a compelling storyline, because I put out the tweet and I said, fans, I know a lot of people want Fatima to end up together, but don't forget, a bunch of people wanted Charles and Candace to end up together on the Haves and the Have-Nots. And look how that turned out. That tweet was not well received. Don't remind us, because go back to the Final Temptation special for the Haves and Have-Nots, and people were like, Candace and Charles are go home.
The one message I have for Mr. Tyler Perry: if Candace and Charles don't end up together, I'm gonna find you and we're gonna have to have us a nice conversation, because they belong together. And if you don't make sure that happen, I'm gonna be pissed, sir.
I know for me personally, like I said before, it really doesn't matter in the long run. I'm more interested in a compelling story arc than these fan favorites getting together in the end. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't love for them to be together, especially if they have to go through a number of obstacles, but also grow together as individuals and as a couple in a relationship. And considering this show, I'm just going to highball it here. Let's say it goes for at least 6 seasons. Make the other characters even half as interesting as Fatima, because if you do that, you'll have a better show for it. Because like I said, you know, during the sister special, oh, we had the chemistry test, you know, the 4 women came together. But I've said since the beginning, I'm not saying that the cast doesn't have chemistry necessarily, but when I look at the characters, I don't really believe they're all that great of friends, because it seems like it's half and half. You got Karen and Andy on one side, but then you always have Sabrina and Danny in the dark about situations. Not to mention, you know, Maurice and Sabrina seem closer as a, you know, a couple of friends than Sabrina does with anybody else within the group. You know, hell, Zach and Danny had a dynamic, especially during season 1. I'm not saying it's still there, but I think season 1 definitely showed a brother-sister bond, and some people still ship those two together. You know, Andy and Fatima are, you know, friends. And then with Karen, you could say Pam, but a lot of people don't like Pam. I honestly don't mind the character. So I feel like overall, these girls, or these women, they seem to have more solid bond / friendships, relationships with other people that aren't in their sisters group. So here you have Fatima, who I just love the origin story of how the character came to be. Someone who was Tyler Perry's stylist, coming into her own, you know, auditioning for a role. And like Tyler said, I'll give you this small role, and if you knock it out of the ballpark, I'll give you more. And she certainly did. And it's the Zatima show. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It really is. I don't think that it matters what the other characters do at this point. We're almost 3 full seasons into the show. And when it comes to any sort of growth and development, that's been mostly given to a lot of the characters who aren't in the opening credits. So I think that, again, if Tyler Perry definitely does better writing with the other main women and their relationship dynamics, the show could be saved. But I think it's a gamble, because if Zatima doesn't work out at the end, and it's the main reason people watch the show, I feel like this could be even worse than the backlash after the Candace and Charles incident. Now, to get to the last part, not all shippings end well. You know, I think I mentioned on Twitter as a kid, I still love the show, The Wonder Years. Not the new one that's about to come out, because it hasn't come out yet, but the original Wonder Year. I'm about to say the white one, but technically it was. But Winnie, I remember as a kid when I found out that Winnie and Kevin didn't get together in the end. I was so heartbroken by that. And then, you know, hell, let's talk about a black show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Lisa and Will, or what's her real name, Beulah, they didn't end up together. Even more sickening, Will's mother and Lisa's father got married, making them half siblings. How freaking weird is that? You know, there are a number of other shows and movies where characters were ride or die for this pairing, but for one reason or another, they just didn't get together by the end of their love story. And that's, I feel like, to be completely honest, if Zatima doesn't work out, I would applaud Tyler Perry. Like, damn, you really went realistic with it. Like, it wasn't about pissing the fans off, but it was about telling the fans that not every love story has a happy ending. Some people, you know, they realize they really aren't meant for each other, or they aren't compatible. And I feel like that's why the Zatima storyline seems more realistic than the antics of Andy and Gary, or the back and forth of Sabrina and Calvin. Like, Calvin's made it clear that he isn't gay, but imagine these two getting married, like, you know, at some point, then like 5-10 years down the line, if not sooner, Calvin wants a threesome, or she comes home from work and finds Calvin in bed with another man, and then, you know, she's going to feel like all conflicted about it. But it's like, I mean, it was right in front of your face the whole time. And then with Danny, you know, I could see her sabotaging herself to just be, you know, a cougar when she's older. And then Andy, let's not even get to that, she'll probably get killed by Gary at some point. So I think Zatima is the most realistic storyline in the show right now. I'm open to the possibility that they don't end up together, because I'm not a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed fan. I'm more of a critic nowadays, but I do applaud Tyler Perry for what he did with this couple, because like I said before, I feel like the writing for these two definitely is a glimpse to the old Tyler Perry saying, hey, for all these people saying I can't write, I need to get a writer's room, guess what? I still got it. So Let me know your thoughts. If you made it to the end of this video, I applaud you. You are definitely a fan of my work, unless you're like a first-time viewer and it's like, I love sisters, this is a team of videos, so I clicked on it. But yeah, check out the channel. Over 5,000 other videos, so I'm pretty sure you won't be bored. Or do you think this was long-winded? Honestly, I don't, because like I said, I had notes and everything else structured. But let me know, do you think Zack and Zatima is in-game? You know, realistically, don't say it as a fan, like I want them together. No, realistically, after everything I presented to you, and who knows what kind of hell and obstacles will be thrown their way in season 4 that Tyler Perry is writing right now, what do you think is going to happen? And like I said before, even if they don't end up together, I just want a satisfying conclusion. Like I said, it's not about them getting together, but a good story. Give them the respect and closure that you didn't give Candace and Charles Tyler Perry. If you give me that, I'm going to be happy. I don't know about the rest of the fans if they don't end up together, but I know I'll be happy. But thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said before, please like and subscribe. If you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.